Record on this computer. Dope.
You know, Idris, when I know we've talked about this before, and but I want to discuss it again. When do you think we'll know when we've made it as a podcast? Like, what's the moment? Like, is it a specific guest? Is it what's the moment?
I guess
When has it happened?
I think we can each have our own threshold for that. I guess for me it's when Lewis hits us up, and for you it's when Fernando hits us up, and they're like, "Yo, we want to be on the pod." Actually, I mean, real talk though, I think it's when we probably have like a crazy number of listeners, and it's like hectic to keep up with like posting. It's when the social media game becomes like nuts, right? Where we would have to like get someone full time,
Okay.
and pay someone and Chipotle gift cards.
I think it might be when we're sponsored by Simply Safe,
Oh,
because that seems to be the sponsor that's like everyone wants. And like I think it was because Lauren mentioned that we were driving from Seattle back down to Portland. We went up there for the day for a birthday party, and she had mentioned, she said there was a podcast you listen to. Have you ever listened to the Therapy Gecko?
no.
So it's a guy who dresses up like a gecko, and then he just takes calls from people, like an old school call-in show.
Sure.
And he just listens to their weird things that they have going on, and then just like kind of talks to them about it. But he's not a real therapist, and a lot of times he'll say like, you should probably go to a real therapist about this. But he was sponsored by Simply Safe, and Lauren goes, "Oh wow, he's really made it." And I was like, "Really?" It's like, because he got the Simply Safe. She's like, "Yeah, that's the one." So yeah, I guess maybe we need to either have a Simply Safe or maybe Magic Spoon.
Magic Spoon.
Maybe it's it's like that like zero refined sugar cereal, that stuff that it kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
It's
expensive. I know what you're talking about.
I've had it before. It's not bad. It kind of tastes like mint, because I think it's because of the stevia they use to make it sweet. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess it could be a sponsor. Maybe it's maybe it's when we I don't know, maybe we get Charles Leclerc on or something to talk about his DJ career after he leaves Ferrari. So,
yeah, I mean, he has a lot of time during the race too, because especially when he doesn't start it.
Right. Well, yeah, this episode I think is definitely going to have our earliest Mamma Mia Scuderia segment that we've had of any episode, because like literally the race didn't even start.
Unbelievable.
I know.
Absolutely unbelievable.
I know. I saw that and I'm like, what happened? And I will say I was at least glad that Charles, it wasn't his fault, like hydraulic failure, So if it was his fault, I would have been like, "Oh no, man! Don't pull a who was it that? Oh, Grosjean did that in the Haas. Remember at Azerbaijan, he was warming up his tires and he just hits the wall in the formation lap. Yeah, so he didn't pull a Grosjean. So that's okay. But God, he started P2 too, man.
Dude, that was rough. That was rough to see, man.
Ugh.
You hate to see it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I don't hate to see though is all of you listeners, which actually I can't see you, but I can't hear you. I don't know why I said that. I know you're there. But anyway, so we're here to talk about the Grand Prix that happened this weekend at Brazil at Interlagos.
In Sao Paulo.
Say that again.
Sao Paulo.
That's how the Google Translate did it?
That's how. Well, the video I watched had like a female AI voice, and it was Sao Paulo, something like that.
Here in Sao Paulo. That voice, I swear, that AI voice, it haunts my dreams, man.
Because you can always tell. You can always tell something's a little
you can
off. You're like,
always
this ain't real.
They can't all sound like that. This is what happens when I take out my garbage, blah blah blah. And it's like, this is not relevant to my life right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. I saw this new guy. I'm trying not to be negative, but I'm sorry. Why do these food TikToker guys have to like cut their meats with swords now? Like, there's a dude that pulls out a full sword to cut it, and then his cuts are so fast. And he's talking so quick. I don't know what's happening. All I know is that he keeps making like the turducken equivalents of like every food that he makes.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't know who you're talking about in particular, but I know like that brand of content. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm going to take this ravioli and then I'm going to wrap it in more ravioli and then I'm going to make this other sauce and then I'm going to make that even bigger ravioli. It's like there was that Saturday Night Live sketch where it was like they started with a taco and then that turned into a chalupa and then that turned into like a burrito and then that turned into like a pizza and then that turned into like a giant pancake and then they just like put it in a bag and just dumped salsa in it. Yeah, it's just like it was just it's too much.
The food content. I was just gonna say the food content that really just like I do not understand is when people like take these giant like slabs of meat and like they like cook it and grill it like really nicely. It looks great, but then like their hands are gloved and they're just like really inappropriate with the meat. It's very uncomfortable to watch. I'm like, what is this? I don't like watching this. Like, you had a perfectly fine slice of beef. Stop. Eat it. That's it. That's all we need to do.
Yeah. I dislike thoroughly when it's all the super quick cuts of them like smacking the counter and like you know what I mean?
People
with like
love
all
that
the cuts
stuff.
and chopping. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's a sensory thing. I don't know. But anyway, I'm sure there are lots of really fancy spiced meats at the Sao Paulo. I was actually thinking about what Interlagos's like what the like kind of fan area is like at that track. Like, do they have like food carts like we do in like America?
I'm sure, and I would assume that it's like way more fun. I would assume that it has like a very like carnival type of feel to it. You know, what's the name of the festival that I can't remember the name of the festival that happens in Brazil where everyone gets all dressed up and it's just like dope and fun and everyone's in costume.
And they're like on like giant stilts and like
I cannot remember the name of it right now, but it's like I would assume it has that kind of vibe, just like the entire track and fan area.
I can imagine the food options at the at Interlagos would just be
being lit,
absolutely spectacular. You know what, Idris, that means, you know what, that's gonna be when we make it
big.
When we make it big, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to every F1 race on the calendar and we are going to review their foods.
That's a very niche, like,
I'm surprised
content creation lane that we would be in. It's like, well, yeah, we're F1 influencers, but not like the way you think we are. But what we actually do, we just review the food at the venues. That's it. That's all we do.
We just care about that.
And all of our cuts are just
It was just a picture of me like pulling apart.
Oh god!
Even if it's just like an iced coffee, I'm just like.
And they like reach in so deeply with their fingers and like ruin the burger. Like, what are you doing?
And every beginning of every since like, oh my god, guys, I'm going to blow this food cart up. It's called blah 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 here, and they serve these cones.
Be nice.
Well, you know, honestly, I'm not surprised. I'm shocked that nobody's done it yet. I mean, because I feel like we would run into it. Maybe somebody is. It is really expensive to go to all these different races, and it's like, I guess I don't know what we would do for Vegas because we wouldn't really even be able to get in there unless we had a mucho bucks. Or we could do this thing. I saw somebody in Vegas the screens over the racetrack. They put up like frosted glass. People were just up there with scrapers scraping the frost off the glass. Okay.
Yep. That's how you get around it.
Right. One thing I will say, this track is definitely one of our personal favorites.
Yeah.
But talk about not being obstructed. It's kind of hard to obstruct a track that has this kind of elevation changes across it. And I think that is what really, really makes it special. But yeah, like what can you tell us about the Interlagos track here, Jace?
Well, Interlagos. So the name Interlagos, that's kind of our fun fact for today. This is straight from Wikipedia, so verified sources here.
Reliable.
Yes, very, very. Real quick thing, actually, I need to say this about Wikipedia. This is something that bothers me. There are people who think Wikipedia is trash. No, Wikipedia is an excellent resource. It is a great starting point for a lot of conversations. You know, don't just take Wikipedia and then believe it to be 100% true, right? Because it can be edited, all that kind of stuff. But what it does allow you to do is take information and say, oh, okay, if this is the baseline of information I have, let me validate against it. And you go to the sources that are listed in the bottom. It's meant to be an open source type of encyclopedia. So to any haters of Wikipedia, that's how it's supposed to function.
Haters, you mean like all of my high school teachers?
Oh my god, it's like, come on,
refuse to let me use Wikipedia to do research.
Dude, that's like
the apex of research.
That's like a math teacher in the '60s saying, "Oh, no calculators on this exam. You better do 2 + 2 by yourself." Like, look.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, come on.
Or like when we were in like middle school and grade school, and they were like, "Oh, you need to write in cursive because that's how they're going to have you do it in high school." And then I get to high school, and they're just like, "Print only. I can't read your cursive." I was like, "Oh, so all of these things I've learned is just being thrown out the window." Okay,
like, awesome,
thanks.
great,
Thanks,
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from Wikipedia, Interlagos, the name comes from the fact that the region is located between 2 large reservoirs that provide power and electricity in the form of electricity to the neighboring city, and that those reservoirs are, I believe it's pronounced Guarapiranga and Billings. So that's a cool little name. I mean, if you think about Interlagos, like inter between Lagos, like lakes, right?
Yeah, it's
so
like the Zach
cool.
Galifianakis of racetracks. It's between instead of 2 ferns, it's 2 lakes.
Interferns.
No, that's really fun,
Yeah.
and I think it also probably is part of the reason why the track is laid out the way that it is, as far as its changes in elevation. That's I think the thing that, and I hope Herman Tilke listens to our podcast.
Yes, yes.
Because I want to tell him, literally, if you want a template for your racetracks, please just I don't care if you just carbon copy Interlagos. That's fine. Just copy it, maybe change a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. That's fine. Interlagos is such a good track, and I think I might know one of the reasons why, because I think we talk about elevation, right? But I also realize that this racetrack does not have a like 90-degree heavy braking zone. Like it has braking zones, but they're not like almost to a stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you get the one at the end of the long straight, the back straight, and then you get the one at the end of the front straight. But even that one, it's like it goes downward, and you're not like, you brake, but you're immediately back on the gas. So you're not like stopping to a crawl in like first gear. Like there's no like first gear corners on this track, I don't think.
It just
Even
flows.
the ones that are slow, they flow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
it flows so beautifully.
It plays into the hands of drivers who can really make it their, like, really be able to like move with the track and also defend on the track, which we will get to, the big talking point. But yeah, absolutely love this track. Absolutely love it.
I think the only really fun thing to mention about the track too is that Ellen Prost, is your driver with the most wins there with 6. That seems to be like a number that keeps popping up anytime we do these. That it's always 6, 6, 6, 5, 7. You know, it's good. It's impressive.
It's, honestly though, I'm kind of surprised to see Ellen Prost on there. It's cool. Because he's not a name we often get to talk about. Usually it's like, Lewis or Michael Schumacher.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's Prost at Brazil, right? Given that his teammate and rival in the form of Ayrton Senna is Brazilian, right? So
yeah, I think there's something about Brazil and like a home race kind of curse. Like Rubens Barrichello had such a hard time getting a race win there. Ayrton Senna had such a hard time getting a race win there. But but then you get guys like Silverstone. Well, it's also could just be a numbers game because like so many drivers are English. So like just if you have like 8 drivers in the field who are all English and they're at their home Grand Prix, there's a higher probability that one of them is going to win it than one of their other rivals who is who's German or French or whatever. That's also an interesting thing. We talk about like getting Americans on the grid. What other nationality driver do you think would be like we haven't seen a Brazilian in a while on the racetrack, at least in a really competitive sense. We also haven't seen, well, we have 2 Frenchmen now. We didn't have that for a while. And then we have Yuki, who's Japanese. That took a minute. Like this year we've been having a pretty wide variety of nationalities driving.
I mean, not to let the cat out of the bag, we have no African drivers on the grid.
It's true. Yeah, that is 100% true.
I mean, but honestly, when it comes to these kinds of sports, you don't get a lot of Africans, South Americans. No. It tends to be more Eurocentric.
Was the last driver
nationalities.
from Africa Jody Scheckter? I mean, I know it's
so.
South African.
Yeah, and that's South Africa during like apartheid, so like not even like fully opened up for all talent that could have existed or may have existed to actually participate in sport, so
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, who knows? Hopefully in the future we'll get some more, just all about creating the opportunity to be able to do it. And that's, I think, the big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so once again, we had a sprint race weekend, which once again I forgot about.
You and me both, buddy.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you when like you realize it's a sprint race weekend because you look at the calendar and you're like, oh shit, I got and then you realize the sprint qualifying is going on as you're like getting breakfast and you're like, oh man, I got it's
no for me it was what was it? It was for me it was I realized it, and at that point it was already kind of like later on. And I was hanging out with Lauren, and I told her, I'm like, oh, I forgot it was a sprint weekend. She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, okay. So we'll watch the highlights of the qualifier, highlights of the shootout, and then we'll watch the sprint. I'm like, and she's like, okay. I was like, because I didn't want to sit there. It's weird. Okay, if I was a single bachelor, you know what I mean? Like, and I was also like in my early 20s again. Like, I would
time.
sit through all of that. It was either that or like playing, I don't know, whatever, Skyrim, whatever I was playing at the time. But now it's like, yeah, man, I got like stuff I got to do. Like I got to clean things. I got to like, it sucks being an adult. But like I had to find some time. So yeah, I just hit those highlight reels on the, especially for the sprint. It's just too much. It's not, and it's not even worth it. And one thing that irritated me, during the sprint, Martin Brundle was just like, this is so much more exciting than watching a FP2 practice session. And I'm like, is it?
I mean, he's touting the company line, man.
Yeah, I guess it's like racing is happening. Yes. But it's just when it gets going, it's over.
Yeah.
Especially
I feel
here.
That.
It's just like, yes, it's cool. We see some passing. That's great. But like Max is still out front. He's still just dominating everybody. Like, this is a track. Like, could you and I once again, it's coming. The broken record is continuing to move. Can you imagine what this sprint race at Sao Paulo in Interlagos would be like if they had a reverse grid? I mean, that would be so awesome. There are so many passing opportunities, but alas, who knows? I don't know.
Here we are.
I think they're still going to do sprints next year. I'm not necessarily the most stoked on it because I think that the sprint experiment was a fun one, but I think that we need to make room for something else that's more interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And so you got to kind of take all the events just like piece by piece. So maybe to get things rolling with qualifying.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I was expecting Danny Ricciardo to be able to get
Yeah.
in better position, and the fact that he was knocked out in Q1 was it was a bummer. It was disappointing. I mean, he was riding that high. I was expecting him to carry that forward, but tides shift. And speaking of tides shift, I think the big story of qualifying, those Aston Martins, man.
Bro.
I was catching up on the Mexican Grand Prix coverage from other podcasts, particularly like DRS, and they're talking about how Aston Martin, they just kind of fell off the face of the planet, and nobody's talking about them anymore, and they're just doing whatever.
We've all said that, right? I mean, it's true.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, bam, bam, there they are. Little Mr. Stroll is up there with Alonso. 3 and 4. Wow. I was just like, that is surprising.
It's like when Will Turner becomes like the captain of the Flying Dutchman in the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Oh, he does? I don't.
Bro,
it's been so long.
What? You don't remember this?
I'm not up to my Pirates of the Caribbean extended universe. Okay?
It was the third movie, like in 2006 or something like that, right?
Oh.
He died, and then I think he
Are we talking about Orlando Bloom's character?
Yeah.
Oh.
Legolas, yeah.
I don't remember him dying.
Legolas, or he was mortally wounded or something.
Okay. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The whole analogy I'm making here is that, Will Turner dying is like Aston Martin in Mexico, right? And then he comes back as the captain of the Flying Dutchman, and he lives, right? And that's Aston Martin for this race weekend. They've done a great job. They're the Flying Dutchman of F1.
I was going to say, the only things I remember is Black Pearl, zombies walking under the water, zombie monkey.
That's right, zombie monkey. I forgot about that guy.
Johnny Depp drunk the whole time, and squid face guy, and then some witch in the forest, and that's all I remember. I don't remember anything else. Seriously. Maybe I'll have to do a rewatch. Who knows?
It's a fun trilogy. It's a fun trilogy. The first one's perfect. The first one's amazing, and then the second one's pretty good, and the third one's okay.
Yeah. See, I'm still working my way through all of the Miyazaki movies. So yesterday was Porco Rosso. Which was really fun. A little strange, considering all the other works that he did. And I found out today that actually it was one that he regrets making, but not because he thinks it's bad, but because he makes movies specifically for the perspective of children, growing up and coming of age. And that movie, Porco Rosso, is specifically about his sort of wish to be have a different life and kind of be a pilot in the sea and just be out and about doing his own thing. And so it was sort of a selfish movie he made, and that's why he thinks it was a mistake. But it was definitely great. And the English overdub is Michael Keaton. So
yeah,
really, really fun. I recommend you trying it at least once. It's a always pretty, and it's as old as I am because it was made in 1992. So but yeah, let's see what else. I'm gonna tell you, those dark clouds that were looming over Quali, those were terrifying.
That was so cool. It added such a spicy element to just that event. Oh, I love it. I love it.
And it was literally the it literally brought an end. It was just yep, no, we're raining now, so there's no way anybody's going any faster than this. Sorry. So yeah, Brazil. I love that they just get these sudden rainstorms. It's just once again another reason why Sao Paulo is just such a brilliant
Sao Paulo
place to be racing. Let's see. Haas got into Q2, which was great. It was good to see them sort of fighting it up there, kind of punching above their weight. And I honestly think that qualifying and race, as far as the teams goes, we could almost do. Imagine if you had a championship. We should, I think we should do this. We should compile some data and determine based on if you were to take the qualifying as a format, if that was a race finish, where would the teams be on the Constructors' Championship? I think Red Bull would still be on the top.
Oh yeah.
But like, where would everybody else be? You know what I mean?
And then what makes it even more fun too? You can break it down by quali session, right? So Q1, Q2, Q3. Yeah, that'd be really fun to do.
You could go wild.
Excel spreadsheet weekend.
Yeah, you could go. Yeah, you could go buck wild with it. I think like the easy way to just start it, like if you could do averages overall, but I think like if you just take the finite like Q3 finisher, and then just calculate the points based on that.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see if anybody else, if any other team is like, you know, maybe it's like a solid Ferrari in position 2. You know, who knows? Maybe Mercedes did better. Like maybe Aston was better. Because I'm realizing now that like qualifying results do not equal the race results.
Not at all.
Some people are better at qualifying than they are racing. Ferrari.
Oh man.
Well, let's just take a little sprint through the sprint then, and just kind of talk about that. It definitely was a little bit of a snapshot of what the race ended up being. Just
a little bit, not wholly. I mean, there were definitely some key differences there. But yeah, no, sorry, I just wanted to say that because I remember Brundle. He said something during the race too, saying like, for those who think that the sprint race is a snapshot of the race. Well, this race has certainly proven them wrong, or something along those lines. When he wasn't dunking on MGK.
Yeah. Well, except for Max won both, and Lando Norris was second in both. So
yeah, sure.
But yeah, the sprint race. I think the biggest notable thing that I wanted to kind of bring up was that the incident. It was actually in the shootout between Alonso and Ocon.
So stupid. Gabe and I were talking about this before we started recording, and just like, I feel like Ocon is still very bitter about how Alonso was like head driver at Alpine before he left, and about how Alonso was instrumental in making sure that Ocon got that race win last year.
Oh,
right?
100%.
He's the only reason he was able to get that race win.
Yeah, once again, another intense defense from Alonso. That like not only he held off Sebastian, who was chasing him in the Aston, right, and Hamilton. His defense for that was so insane. And the reason why I remember that was because I remember thinking that was incredible. And then I remember when Drive to Survive came out that season. They didn't even like mention that. Like they didn't even like bring that thing up as it's like they made it look like Ocon did the whole thing himself. Yeah. It's like, no, if Hamilton had not held off,
if Alonso had not held off Hamilton,
or if Alonso had not held off like Hamilton and Vettel, Ocon would not have gotten that win because they were on a charge. They would have passed him. It was like with Perez and Max Verstappen. Like people remember that defense. Yeah, and it's like, sure, that was a very, very, very good defense. Yeah, but like I have seen Alonso do defenses of that caliber multiple times. He did it with Vettel it was British Grand Prix, Silverstone, I think like 2012. He did the same thing where he just kept putting the car in places that Vettel could not pass. And it was awesome to see. It was so exciting.
I love to see it.
You love to see it. I don't think he's the only one who can do it.
Oh no. I think there's several drivers in the grid. But he's like he teaches the master class on that. Like you can sub to his class right now, pay the $150, and he'll say, "Hello, I'm Fernando Alonso. I'll show you how to defend like a champion like me."
I am Fernando Alonso, and I'm here. This is my TED Talk. I'm here to talk about defending drivers from drivers on track. Yeah.
Slide two, please. Also, oh no, this is the old slide deck. Let me
checking.
Hold on. We are checking.
GP3 slide.
But the reason I bring this up about Alonso is because there seems to be some spiciness that remains between Ocon and Alonso. And if you watch the onboard and you watch like the playback of their crash, I mean, Alonso really did not turn in to Ocon there.
He didn't know.
Ocon, it just seemed like he actually had like no control going into that corner, right, into that turn, and just lost it. Like he couldn't maintain it. He was right on the knife edge, went over just a bit too much, and then boom, glanced to Alonso, and then they're both, I mean, Alonso was able to like limp back, but Ocon was, that was not a good incident, and not a good look after too, to be like raging on like that.
No. And here's the thing I want to say too. Let's just speculate here. Let's say that Alonso did want to compromise Ocon's lap and turn into him. Okay, one, why would he try and compromise an Alpine? Is Alpine really the competition for Aston Martin at this moment? Not really. And two, why would Alonso put himself and another driver in danger in that way?
Yeah,
like
immense
danger.
There's
no way that was intentional. You got to think about that. The only time that impeding a driver during a qualifying session that was intentional is when they like run off into the runoff area and then pull out a yellow flag. Like that's how they do it.
Or in the pit lanes.
That's the safe way to do it. Or the pit lane. Yeah. That's the safe way to do it. Nobody's out there trying to recklessly run into each other. Like nobody's trying to do that. And honestly, like Alonso left him enough room. He had more than enough. He had more than a car length and a half in order to get through. And Ocon, you see if you watch the onboard, I think he loses it on the curb. He like clips the curb, and then loses it, and then just a good thing he didn't hit him any harder. That was a lucky escape. So. But yeah, I think it's once again, I think that some drivers cannot handle their adrenaline, and so they lash out quite a bit. And Ocon, I think, is one of those guys.
Can I just say about Ocon real quick? I guess I never realized how much he looks like Ben Stiller from Zoolander all the time. Like it just like when I was watching,
a bit.
When I was watching the opening, I was like, why is he making like the pouty lips face?
Yeah. No, for sure.
What is this, a car for ants?
Yeah. Honestly, I wish we could petition to the people who make those for next year. Let's make the drivers
fun.
Smile. Yeah, or just get some action shots. Like take a cue from the Formula Academy intro and just do some like action shots.
Yeah.
Like do some like stuff. Like I want to see stuff that's happened like in the races, like them taking off, and like this whole like standing around a light stage and like being like illuminated by moving numbers in their name. Like I'm not honestly. The song is one thing.
It doesn't do it for you.
The video, no. Especially now, it's definitely worn down on me over this season. You know what I mean? I'm not as
because you just see Max's face at the end. He's just staring at the camera. He's like, "These cookies taste great."
Oh, speaking of that, I came across one of those Sergio Perez, Sebastian Vettel Red Bull packages in like a Safeway.
Yeah.
I swear somebody photoshopped Perez's face to be like gigantic because it looks like he had shoved a bunch of Oreos in his mouth before the photograph. I will send you a picture of it. I'm going to do it right now because I was like, who did my man dirty? That's terrible. It is so bad. Like he doesn't he's an F1 driver. He doesn't have this point. Oh yeah, get ready for this.
Here, I'm searching most popular cookies in Mexico.
They've got some. I'm gonna tell you what they've got some good cookies over there because I'm luckily in Portland. I live near a there's like this food cart hub / Mexican food market that's over there, and so everything that's in the like grocery in the market is all like kind of stuff that's sourced from Mexico,
sure,
or other like kind of Spanish, Latin, or speaking countries, and they've got some really awesome stuff in there, like just like these little like they have these like little like soft like muffin cakes and like all these interesting flavor profiles that like you don't often see all the time, and really, really good stuff. I got like a assortment box once that I just like threw on the table at my place. Like, here, everybody share it. But yeah, no, I just sent you that picture of Perez. So when you get a moment,
yeah, he's definitely got cookies in the mouth there.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I've seen that photo.
Yeah. Anyway, let's. That was. I would say that's the
That's
sprint.
pretty good.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's
let's
good on
move on
sprint.
to the race because the race is definitely at least the one I remember. Sorry, guys.
Man,
Let's start. Yeah, you know what? This is like I said. This is it's a Mamma Mia scuderia
yeah,
right out the gate.
right off jump. So yeah, we get a Mamma Mia scuderia immediately. Where on the formation lap, Charles just loses his hydraulics on the car. So that's like power steering. That's like all these elements of the car just gone, right?
Right.
So he gets he has to just pull over after binning it, and they get the car like taken care of.
Well, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
He got it going, right, and then he moved it to
it off to
road,
it's an escape road. Yeah. At which point, which is really funny, I gotta shout this guy out. I gotta find this. Where is this? Okay. Yeah, shout out to the Redditor, late_AD7156. He posted a photo of the marshals taking a picture with Charles' broken Ferrari. One of the funniest photos I think I've seen in a long time. I laughed really hard when I saw it.
It's hilarious.
You have we'll post it to our Instagram, but you have a marshal who is like just squatting next to the front right of the car with a thumbs up. I mean, and if this doesn't, also who is taking the photo? Do you think they asked Charles? It's like, hey man, look, I know you're having a rough time, but can you just get a photo for me?
It may have been a press guy or something, that had his camera. Yeah. Well, and what was interesting about that too is that he after the session got red flagged, he ran back over to his car because I think he wanted to try and see if he could get it started back up. Yeah, get it back. Yeah. But the problem was that there's a thing in the rules that once you've exited your car and it's in like outside the racetrack area, if you've exited your car and you walk away from it, it's considered abandoned basically, and so like you cannot get it started again and restart it.
Woo, free Ferrari.
Abandoned F1 car. And also, I will say, too, that hydraulic problem that Charles had was not just isolated to him. Both the Alfa Romeos, which are Ferrari engine customers, also retired with similar hydraulic problems. And I think, didn't Carlos Sainz, too? Carlos had also, I think, had some hydraulic
He was complaining
problems, right?
about the clutch on the car.
Right. So this was not just Charles. Like this was a lot. This was a problem across those cars themselves. Maybe their drivetrain warranty coverage expired right before the race, and
oh man, these can only get 10,000 miles, and I got 10,002, and then kaput.
They didn't buy that extended warranty like they should have. They opted for the underspray coating.
Yep.
Which that's a. Unless you live in a place like Cleveland, where it's icy and salt, you don't need that covering. No, it's a scam. But yeah. Oh, poor Charles. He said, I quote, "Why am I so effing unlucky?" Or like, why am I like? Yeah, he just.
I mean, he's aware.
Poor guy.
He's self-aware.
Yeah, I might have to update our. Or Scuderia Ferrari intro music or intro sound bits because there's just so much more that I could use now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I mean, unfortunately for Charles, but fortunately for everyone else, that left the P2's position open, and that just allowed everyone to just gun right into that space. So when they finally lined up to actually start the race again, you see Fernando just completely point his car straight towards Max, and
he did
awesome. It was such a fun restart.
It was awesome, but then they just immediately got swamped by Hamilton and Norris on both sides as they got to that first corner.
Oh yeah,
which was wild. It's incredible to see. I mean, even Max had a great start. He's usually not getting good starts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he swamped it. That was great.
It was really fun to see that restart. And also, too, shout out Lando Norris for just hauling and that the first few laps upon the restart. And this is one thing that kind of makes me a little sad because what ends up happening, Lando did not get the overtake done on Max. I wish he had gunned it fully on Max and gone for the overtake. There was a point where like Lando literally was just like on the rear end of Max.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if he had like overtaken, maybe he could have won the race on. I mean, I think his tires would have been cooked after that initial attack, but he may have had like the element of strategy, like pit stopping, just positioning his car well, like we'll end up seeing Fernando do towards Perez. But man, that was probably one of the biggest disappointments of the race, that Lando wasn't able to get it done.
Yeah, no, it's true. I was excited to see that he was, trying to scrap it. I think did he maybe catch Max sleeping a little bit, napping a little bit,
maybe,
and like because the minute he didn't make that move stick, Max got like he got like 2 seconds on him within like a lap and a half. Like, sorry about that one. Like,
yep.
I also think that a lot of these guys, like, they end up just like using up all of their battery charge and everything just to get that one possible moment, and then if it doesn't work out, it's like, well,
they're cooked.
My tire's gone. I have no energy. It's over.
Yeah.
And that's where things get frustrating about this, and part of me wishes that these cars were a little. Honestly, I would be willing to accept these cars being slower if it meant that they were more. I don't know, a little more of a challenge, of focus to drive. Like I think some drivers are able to kind of just sort of go through the motions.
Yeah, check
certain
out
circumstances, or just like they know what they can do and they don't, like, it's like pushing. There's like that edge of the limit. It's like if they go over the limit, they crash. But then if they're outside of it, they're not anywhere. And so it's like just this line. I wish there was more variable that you could get, like, some guys are a little more brave and they can push it a little closer, and so it's at the raggedy. That's why they call it the raggedy edge. You know what I mean? It's like, rather than just being a sharp cliff, it'd be nice if it was just kind of like a rough road, and they could, somebody who knows how to get through it, and they're just fast enough that they can do it. It's
that allows everyone to compete.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. One of the other big talking points from the race, is the fact that Mercedes sucked. Just like
Mercedes sucks.
I mean, just steaming garbage. Like, oh my goodness, man. Like,
oh yeah.
The fact, like, oh man, those cars are just running so poorly, and then even to the point that George Russell had to retire his car. That was really, really awful.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was painful.
It was so painful to see. It's just like, geez, man, you guys are getting beat by like McLaren, a customer team, and Aston, a customer team. Yikes.
Or like Alpha and AlphaTauri, like, like it's like,
oh my goodness, yeah. Yuki Tsunoda was about to overtake them.
Yeah, I think like Hamilton couldn't pass Gasly because like he was just too fast down the straight. It was like they had a certain amount of turning speed, but they just could not. It was so dragging down the straights. There was just nothing they could do.
Yeah,
and
they were just drag racing, or it was the end of a drag race where they deployed their drogue chute, right?
Right.
Just to slow the car down, like every single time. It was just
and
miserable.
Interlagos is a quick track, right? But it doesn't have like, I mean, it's got like that kind of curved straight, but it's not like it's not like a huge Herman Tilke, like, 4 mile long
like
straightaway with like a right angle turn braking zone at the end.
Right.
So I'm surprised that they were as far back as they were, but they were just they could not pull it out.
That was just like.
Yeah. But also, speaking of Alpine, can I just say, like, out of any of all the teams, it's funny, the two teams that I thought were going to be doing a lot better this year ended up being terrible. And that is pretty much Alpine and Alfa Romeo. Yeah. Like, I had such high hopes for those guys, like, going into the season. And they just have not put up like any kind of fighting competition. I mean, you can't expect Haas to be doing that well. Williams is doing much better than expected because of Albon, which, by the way, poor Albon getting taken out.
Oh, dude.
At that first with
he had
Kevin.
It was so frustrating because really it was, I mean, you look at the footage and it was just unfortunate, right? More of a racing incident because you got Magnussen on the left, you have Albon on the right, and then in between the two of them, you have Hülkenberg. And Hülkenberg saw the pinch and squeeze coming and like tried to like brake to get out of it, but he ended up like touching Magnussen just a bit, just enough, right, to yeet him right into Albon, and that was just awful to see.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, we had a pretty high attrition rate this race.
Yeah.
For mechanical retirements, and then that crash in the beginning.
I think we lost 6 cars, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, you had Charles who didn't start, for previously mentioned.
Charles, both Alfa Romeos, Albon. And I think Magnussen, Hulkenberg. I think Hulkenberg stayed in it.
Yeah, he finished P12. Yeah, but it was a Mercedes, both Alphas,
right.
a Haas, a Williams, and a Ferrari.
Yeah,
walk into a bar and
and they say we are BS. We are checking.
We are checking.
But let's move away from move away from the negative stuff and let's talk about the positives. And that was the amount of passing and just really, really good racing happening on this track.
So fun to see. So fun to see.
Yeah, Russell and Perez were juggling stuff back and forth. There was Perez. I mean, Perez was fighting this whole way. I mean, he has something to prove. Which he shouldn't have to, but he was definitely racing like a man possessed. I think a lot of the commentators are saying like, this is the Perez that we remember. And I'm like, that's not fair. Like, come on, let's, he's always been there. It's just, he's been dealing with a weird racist grandpa that's been saying weird comments about him most of the year. Yeah, but no, they were. It was really fun to watch. Just so much passing, so much potential for passing, and I think a big portion of this too is like you get these really nice. It's pretty wide in certain areas, and like when you have these turns that are bigger and swooping, it's not about who outbreaks who, and who positions. It's all about like positioning yourselves on the track. And also being in like trusting your fellow drivers that they're going to give you room, that if you are charging around a corner through the outside or the inside, that they're going to give you the space to do that. Because it was a lot about who could get the traction out of the turn, and more than it was who was better entering it. Right. And I think that creates such a dynamic, interesting aspect to, to what you witness out on track.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, lots of really, really incredible racing. Perez and Russell were trading back and forth, like, for, fifth position, for a while. And Hamilton kind of was sticking up pretty high. He had a DRS train behind him for a while there, which everybody was just kind of latching onto. But I do think that, and I think, Martin Brundle brought this point up, that the DRS is not as powerful from the Red Bull as it was in the beginning of the year, only because everybody else has sort of caught up and figured it out a bit more.
Absolutely. I mean?
Because they're definitely quick, but like as we saw with Perez and Alonso towards the end of the race, even with the DRS down, the Red Bull does not look like it doesn't look like a race car passing a kid and his little tykes. You know what I mean?
Which is what we saw. What was it in Bahrain when Max flew past Russell?
Yeah,
it was just like, whoa.
Like it's only like I thought it was only supposed to be like a 12-mile-an-hour difference. That was that felt like 30 or 40. It was just like
get pulled over. I'm sorry, officer. I thought I was going 25.
I'm sorry, sir. I had my DRS open. It was activated.
I didn't know I couldn't do that, officer.
I'm Max Verstappen. But yeah, Perez had such a great charge coming up through. But honestly, up at front, Max and Norris, they were within enough of a distance of each other. Nobody had a really bad bungled pit stop. Everybody was just kind of, maintaining their race, right? And just kind of working. I know the soft tire was the preferred tire to be on for this race for sure. I think they even... What?
I was gonna say, but if you ask Lewis, we should have gone to the hard tire, man.
Yeah,
which was like fascinating. He said that, given that no one wanted to touch a hard tire at all.
Oh yeah.
Also,
it makes me wonder, what would he know?
Well, you're right. Yeah. I mean, maybe they had some data on it, but I was gonna say with Mercedes, Mercedes is not in the position to have slow pit stops like they do. Like, it is actually boggling to see how frequently they have like 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 2.7 pit stops, second pit stops, right?
Right.
Like, when you were the top team on the grid, yeah, you could do that, right? Like, you're gonna make it up because of the performance in your car. But look at Red Bull. Red Bull is still like, I mean, they're out there. They're the top dog right now, right? And they're getting 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2.0, 2.1 second pit stops. Like, the pit stop is so crucial to them. You know what I mean? And that's something that, as I was watching the race yesterday, I was just really just thinking, like, man, like, Mercedes, you don't have that luxury anymore. You gotta work better. You gotta work hard at that, fixing that. So
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Idris, tell us about the epic battle.
Oh man,
epic.
Oh,
you know, the Sephiroth versus Cloud.
bro.
What is it?
Goku versus Kid Buu.
Or Frieza, the Goku
Frieza, yeah, Goku Frieza,
Goku Cell,
yeah,
Gohan Cell, that battle,
man. Oh my God. Okay, so for a good portion of probably the last 15 laps of the race, you could see that Perez was making like some solid ground, and it's like, oh crap, he is going to challenge for podium. I think he can get like P3, right?
Right.
So he's carving through the field, finally catches up to Alonso. And for about 4 or 5, I think even 6 laps, he was just stuck behind him, right? And so Alonso's like putting his car in the right place at the right time, defending properly, right? And like putting his car in positions that you're just like, dude, like you're doing it so well, right? Like, because the thing is, Perez he's not a rookie, right? He's a vet. He's a seasoned vet. But Alonso is like a seasoned vet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's seen everything.
Yeah, I think they said that there's like 157 races between Perez and Alonso.
Dude,
like, because Alonso has like 325 or something
Yeah,
at this point.
That's like 10 years of racing, because Alonso came in 2002, right? And Perez came in 2012. So that's like 10, that's like about 10 years of racing on him, right? Yeah. So he's seen everything. So
including 2 championships.
Yeah, including 2 championships, right?
Yeah.
And arguably should have been 3, right? With how 2007 went, right? Or and maybe 4, 2012, who knows?
Right.
But man, like, they're going back and forth trading blows. And Alonso slips up a little bit, and Perez is able to get him on the back straight, right? And then they're just going, and you think it's sealed up, right? And this is when we're on lap, I think it was of 71. I think it was like lap 69. This happened.
Yeah, it was like the last 3 laps basically.
They were just trading blows back and forth, and I'll let you take it from here, because I know you're a big Alonso stan.
I knew, so what happened was, like, Perez passes up Alonso, right?
Yes,
and they're pulling out of that front straight, and Alonso knows how to pick his moment, and so he did not try and pass him of that first turn. He just wanted to stick on his back, because he knew that second DRS zone was his opportunity. Yep. And the minute I saw that Alonso was like almost like a half a car length away from Perez, like coming into that, like down through that final break, like into that little chicane, the Senna S chicane, to get to that straight, I knew he was going to be able to. I knew he was going to challenge, and sure enough, he did. He just like Perez tried to give him the fake, and he was like, nope.
He's like, he knew it was coming.
He knew exactly what he was going to do.
Yeah,
and he moved around and got around him. It was
beautiful.
I shouted. I was just like, yes. Like, I was so stoked, and then he held on to it, and then that photo finish,
bro. Dude, so
remarkable.
Wait, before we even get there, before we even get to the photo finish, right? Like, the last turn before they get to the finish line, like, you can see that Perez is just like, all right, I'm just gonna stay in his draft, right? I'm just gonna speed up, and then the way he whips out, and they're both just like charging towards the finish line. Oh my God, right?
Yeah,
like
that's the finish we want.
The patience that Perez had to have right there to pick the right moment to whip the car out and just gun it, right? Because honestly, if the finish line had maybe been like another 100 yards up, like, it would have been even tighter. Like, it's possible he may have even overtaken him right there. Like, Like, he picked the right time to do that, and like, this is what you live to see. This is Formula One. Like, beautiful.
The only way they knew it was
to see.
Alonso was because the electronic timing.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like, because like had that been anywhere else, they would have had to rely on the photo finish in order to figure that out. And you know what?
It was amazing.
You know what my favorite thing about all of this is, though. At the end of the race, like Perez walked up to Alonso and they like embraced each other. With
yes, right.
Like that was epic.
That's what you want to see, right? Like that's like that is on merit. That like if anyone were Perez in that situation, I think all of us do the exact same thing. Go up and be like, "Yo, that was excellent. Like these are the kind of battles I live and die for. Like to do this, to compete against the best, and to lose out just by this much because you're right there too. Like
Yeah,
man,
that was a hearty handshake and good on you.
A
like,
good attaboy.
Yeah, that was incredible. And like Alonso 41 doing this.
42,
like,
bro.
42.
42.
I'm sorry, like everyone, and I will not take any questions about his age ever from anybody ever. If you question Fernando Alonso's age as a reason why he shouldn't be in the sport, then I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
because age ain't nothing but a number for this man. Okay,
100%.
Age ain't nothing but a number. Like he's getting on podiums. He's defending from young bucks who are still trying to like kind of get through. Like he's got it, and like and that's why it's I just wish like that's why I wanted the Aston Martin to be consistently better. And I think had the Red Bull not been as fast as it was this year, I know we would have gotten a couple of Alonso victories.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And this is funny too because we do plan on going back and actually, I think for one of our off-season episodes, we're going to listen to our preseason prediction episode and just kind of critique that and talk about that and maybe make predictions for next season. And I know absolutely that's one that's in there where we're like, oh yeah, if the Aston Martin is fast, we can expect to see like a couple of race wins, like. Ooh, didn't happen because the iron fist of Max came down and crushed all the competition.
Oh yeah.
But they've still made a good showing.
They did.
And
they did.
Just amazing. And all it took was them throwing out all their upgrades.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because now this means in the offseason, the aerodynamicists are going to have a hell of a time running lots of CFD.
Yep. No, isn't it funny? It's just like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it sort of thing. Like,
man.
Yeah. No, that was an epic finish.
No, good for them.
Well done, Sao Paulo.
Absolutely,
well done, Interlagos.
I mean, you had the Mexican minister of defense going up against the Spanish minister of defense. Like,
no, see, it's for me, it's Sergio's the Mexican minister of defense, and then Alonso is just the UN defense security council. All right, like he's just the entire UN Security Council. All right, like he's defending everybody from everything. He
helped the French last year with their first win. Ocon.
Yeah, it's
defending
incredible.
the British Aston Martin organization and make sure they get some points. Oh man,
I feel I'm so glad I got my Alonso shirt this year because I was really dreading missing out on that. Well, Idris, do you want to give some quick vibes for the end?
Yeah.
Like wrapping it up, like what are you thinking? What are you feeling? How did you feel at the end of this race? How do you feel about the ways the season shaped?
Dude, first off, my jaw was dropped because that was like the coolest ending to a race in a long time, right? And like, what's cool about this is that like, okay, so I'm gonna make the joke, but this ending wasn't manufactured. You know what I mean? Like this happened organically on the track, right? Like this wasn't something of rigged. Like, yeah, it was. Like this happened naturally. It just because of the sequence of events, this just happened, and this is what people want to see. So I would love to see more of this, right? In order to get more of this, that means you get like the right people in the right car, right, on the right team, and you just let them race, right? Let people let teammates race against one another. Let that happen. It needs to. Aston Martin, I just want to continue off that thought that I had. Seriously, like this offseason is going to be hectic for them because for them the only way they went forward or actually went back to where they were was just forgetting and dropping everything that they've done so far, which is, I mean, in one sense, when you're designing and when you're doing engineering, it's good to know, it's just as beneficial to know what not to do, sometimes more so, right? than what to do. So they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and focus on what their design philosophy for next season looks like. I'm assuming a car that looks more like the Red Bull.
I think everybody's going to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Aston Martin's probably been the closest as far as their concept, but they've kind of borrowed elements from different teams, as far as the philosophies are concerned. So it should be a fun offseason for the aerodynamicists. So have fun running those Navier-Stokes equations on your.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I would say next year I'm most excited about what Mercedes is going to look like.
Yeah.
What Aston Martin's going to do and how McLaren is going to kind of pick up from where they kind of momentum they started to gain towards the end of the season. I'm also genuinely excited to see what's going on with the last two races. I mean, Vegas is such an unknown quantity that like who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
it could be great or a bust.
Abu Dhabi, I don't know. It might Abu Dhabi if Abu Dhabi ends in kind of a stinker, like it's going to be a little bit of a disappointment going into the next into next season. But
I mean, but is that different than how it typically is?
Yeah.
Like the marina is beautiful, right? But I don't know. The race is typically always kind of like,
It's just not. There's too much. There's too many runoff areas on that track, and it's too flat.
Mm-hmm. No elevation change. Yeah.
No elevation change.
Honestly, the season closer should always be Interlagos, frankly.
Yeah. No, it used to be, and that was why it was always way more exciting in that it used to be the ending like that. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like it. I like that. I like that Interlagos always used to be the end. It used to be the ending. But now it's Abu Dhabi, and it's just what we're stuck with. So, yeah.
Pay up, Sao Paulo. If you pay up, you too can be the last course of the last track of the season.
It was the opener too, I think, in the 70s and 80s. So like it's been on both ends of the calendar. So, but yeah. No, that was Brazil. So, once again, love that track. Herman Tilke, please just copy it. Just copy it.
Control C, Control V.
Move some earth. Make some elevation. Let's not just stick to the flat tracks anymore. I want more Austrias. I want more Interlagos. I want more Zandvoort.
More spas.
More Spa. Yeah, just give me more of those. Give me more Suzuka. Give me a couple more changeovers. Yeah, let's do that.
Give me that Suzuka. Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to your podcasts. If you want to hit us up, which I recommend you do, we're very nice people. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok. We're okay. YouTube and I got kind of a mean streak. YouTube and X, which is formerly Twitter, if you don't already know, which I'm sure everyone is just referring to it as Twitter out of spite.
We should just still say Twitter. Yeah, we're on Twitter. We're F1 or F Off. So hit us up on Twitter.
On Twitter. You can also email us at f1orfoffpodcast@gmail.com. And please, if that's a good, you can definitely get to both of us. Obviously, don't feel, you can definitely send us a DM. Any thoughts, suggestions, things that you want to interact us with or ask us about. Like, we're open. We're an open book kind of folks. So we're definitely down to hear some what you guys have to say. Please give us a 5-star review or a 3.5 or 4 stars acceptable review wherever you listen to your podcast. Really helps us out a lot. Pushes us into places. We want to get more people listening.
We want that Simply Safe sponsorship.
We want the Simply Safe. We want the Magic Spoon. We want the maybe the there's one with it's like a tailored suit. That would be nice.
Ooh.
I just want all the stuff.
HelloFresh.
HelloFresh. Ooh yeah, HelloFresh. That would be great. This is us manifesting. This is our manifesting moment. Please bring us sponsors, bring us promotional things that we appreciate and we like. Bring us people who want to be interviewed. Just send in the vibes. That's me sending the vibes.
Yeah.
Also share with your friends and family. And your relatives, your uncles that you don't like, that you don't see in a while, and they still think that you want to be a lawyer, even though you outgrew that when you were in middle school.
Like Martin Brummel talking to MGK, and make it like that. Yeah.
because the shares and the likes, they make the internet world go round. That's what the kids say, right? On fleek.
Wow. Yeah.
No cap.
Oh man. Oh,
is that what they say?
Whoa. Okay. Thanks all for listening to another episode of F1 or F
We
Off.
just lost like half our Gen Z audience right there. They're just like, okay, grandpas.